Beloved, there is a truth so profound, so life-altering, so completely opposite to everything the world has taught you about money, that when you truly receive it, not just hear it, but receive it deep into the marrow of your understanding, nothing about your relationship with abundance will ever be the same again. And that truth is this: the money is already yours. It has always been yours. It was assigned to you before you drew your first breath, written into the fabric of your divine inheritance, sealed with the signature of a God who does not make promises he does not keep. The money is not coming. It is not being prepared. It is not waiting for you to become more deserving, or more disciplined, or more spiritual. It is already yours. The only distance between you and the fullness of that truth is not time. It is not effort. It is not luck, or favor, or the alignment of circumstances beyond your control. The only distance, the only real distance, is in how you receive. And receiving, beloved, is the one art this world has never taught you. From the time you were small, you were taught to earn, to work, to strive, to prove, to chase, to compete. You were taught that money is the reward for labor, the prize, at the end of a long and exhausting race. You were taught that some people get more because they do more, sacrifice more, suffer more. And so you have been running that race, sometimes at full speed, sometimes on bleeding feet, wondering why the finish line keeps moving, wondering why the prize keeps shifting just beyond your reach. But beloved, what if the race was never the path? What if everything you were taught about how money comes to a person was only half the truth, and the other half, the more important half, was left out entirely? Today we are going to fill in what was left out. Today we are going to talk about the art of receiving, the divine science of opening yourself to what is already yours, the sacred practice of removing every invisible barrier you have built, brick by brick, belief by belief, word by word, between yourself and the abundance that has been waiting at your door since before you knew to look for it. This is not a motivational speech. This is not a collection of positive thoughts designed to make you feel better for an afternoon. This is a confrontation with the deepest patterns of your inner life, an honest, loving, and precise confrontation. Because the law does not respond to surface changes, it responds to transformation. And transformation begins the moment you are willing to look honestly at what you have been carrying and decide, once and for all, to put it down. So let us begin at the beginning. Let us begin with the question that changes everything. If the money is already yours, if abundance is genuinely your divine inheritance and not a distant possibility, but a present reality in the invisible realm, then why are you not living in it? Why does the bank account not reflect it? Why does the end of the month still arrive before the end of the money? Why do opportunities seem to pass by you like trains you keep missing? The answer, beloved, is not in your circumstances. It is not in the economy, not in your background, not in the mistakes of your past, not in the timing of the universe. The answer is in your receiver, and your receiver has been tuned to the wrong frequency. Think of it this way. Imagine that right now, in this very room, there are thousands of radio signals passing through the air. Music, news, conversations, frequencies of every kind, all present, all real, all moving through this space simultaneously. But you cannot hear any of them. Not because they are not there, but because you do not have a radio tuned to receive them. The moment you bring in a receiver and tune it to the right frequency, the music that was always there becomes audible. The broadcast that was always happening becomes accessible. Nothing changed in the invisible realm. Everything changed in the instrument of reception. Your mind, your belief system, your inner conversation, your emotional atmosphere, these are your receiver. And if that receiver is tuned to the frequency of lack, of fear, of unworthiness, of doubt, it does not matter how much abundance is broadcasting in the invisible realm, you will not receive it. You will walk through life, surrounded by the signal of divine supply, and hear nothing but static. This is why two people can grow up in the same household, receive the same education, work in the same field, and have completely different financial realities. It is not the outer conditions that determine the outcome. It is the inner frequency. It is the receiver. And here is what makes this truth so liberating, beloved. A receiver can be recalibrated. A frequency can be changed. The beliefs that have been blocking your reception are not permanent features of your character. They are not genetic. They are not destiny. They are learned patterns, and what has been learned can be unlearned, replaced, overwritten with something closer to the truth. That is exactly what we are going to do today. We are going to examine the frequencies that have been jamming your signal, and we are going to learn, step by careful step, how to retune the receiver of your inner life until abundance flows in as naturally as air flows into open lungs. Let us start with the first and most common block to receiving, and that is the belief that you must deserve it before you can have it. This belief is so deeply embedded in the thinking of most people that they do not even recognize it as a belief. It feels like a fact. It feels like justice. It feels reasonable and right to say that abundance should come to those who have earned it, who have worked hard enough, who have proven themselves worthy. But beloved, this thinking places your abundance on a scale that is always tipping, always requiring one more achievement, one more sacrifice, one more proof of your worthiness. And here is the cruelest part of that scale. No matter how much you put on it, it never quite balances. Because the belief that you must deserve it is, at its root, a belief that you do not already deserve it. And that belief, held in the deep places of the mind, becomes the instruction the law obeys. When a child is born into a family of great wealth, no one asks whether the child deserves the inheritance. No one requires the infant to prove their work ethic before placing the family fortune in their name. The inheritance is given because of relationship, because of belonging, because of who the child is, not because of what the child has done. And beloved, you are a child of the divine. You belong to the source of all abundance. Your inheritance is not contingent on your performance. It is secured by your nature, by the very fact of your existence. The moment you truly believe this, not as a nice idea but as the bedrock truth of your identity, the receiver begins to shift, the static begins to clear, and the signal of abundance begins to come through. But let us press deeper, because the belief of unworthiness has cousins, and those cousins are just as effective at blocking your reception. One of those cousins is guilt. The guilt that says, I should not want too much. There are people suffering in the world, and here I am asking for more. Beloved, your poverty does not feed a single hungry child. Your lack does not lighten the burden of anyone else's struggle. The idea that diminishing yourself is somehow noble, that keeping yourself small is a form of spiritual virtue, is one of the great deceptions the enemy of your abundance has used against you. A lamp that dims itself does not bring more light to the room, it brings less. When you thrive, when you overflow, when you receive the fullness of your inheritance, you become a source of light and resource and generosity that can genuinely touch the lives of others. You cannot pour from an empty vessel, but you can pour endlessly from one that is connected to an infinite source. Another cousin is the belief that money is somehow spiritually dangerous, that wealth corrupts, that the love of money is the root of all evil, and therefore, the safest thing is to keep your distance from it. Now, beloved, let us read that truth carefully. It is the love of money, the worship of it, the making of it into a god that creates corruption. Not the having of it, not the receiving of it, not the stewarding of it wisely and generously. Money in the hands of a person with a pure heart and a clear purpose is one of the most powerful forces for good on this earth. It builds schools and feeds families and funds healing and carries the message of hope to places that have never heard it. Do not be afraid of abundance because of what it does in the hands of those who worship it. You are not those people. You are a vessel of divine purpose, and money in your hands is a tool of that purpose. Now let us talk about the second great block to receiving, and this one is more subtle than the first. It is the block of premature closure. This is what happens when you have a need or a desire, and instead of holding it open, instead of keeping the channel of expectation wide, you close it off by deciding how the answer must come. You say, "I need $10,000. And then, in the very next breath, you begin calculating the only possible routes through which $10,000 could arrive. It would have to come from my job, or from this client, or from this investment, or from this person. And in that calculating, you have just told the law that there is only one door through which your abundance is allowed to enter. And if that door is jammed, if that client does not come through, if that investment does not perform, you conclude that the money is not coming. But beloved, you did not fail to manifest. You failed to receive because you closed the very channels through which the answer was traveling. The law of abundance is not limited to the paths your human mind can imagine. It has access to routes you have never heard of, to people you have never met, to opportunities that do not yet have names. When you hold your need open, when you say clearly what you require, and then release the how to the wisdom of divine supply, you allow the universe to deliver through every possible channel simultaneously. You become not a person standing at one door waiting and hoping, but a person with every window open and every door unlocked, ready to receive from any direction the blessing chooses to arrive. This is what the great teachers meant when they said, "Ask, and it is given." Not ask, and then manage the delivery. Not ask, and then supervise the process. Ask, which means state your need with clarity and faith, and then step back from the management of the how. Let the law work. Let the divine intelligence that runs the universe figure out the logistics. Your job is the asking and the receiving. The delivery route is not your department. And here is a truth that will set many of you free today. The answer to your prayer is often already moving toward you. It was set in motion the moment the sincere desire arose in your heart. But because it is coming through a channel you did not expect, you are not recognizing it when it arrives. You are waiting for the knock on the front door, and the answer is coming through the garden gate. You are watching the highway and the blessing is arriving on the footpath. Open your awareness, beloved. Expand your expectation beyond the familiar. Your abundance is creative in its approach, and it needs you to be open enough to receive it in whatever form the divine wisdom chooses to send it. Let us now speak about the third block, and this one, beloved, may be the most powerful of all. It is the block of the inner conversation. What you say to yourself when no one else can hear you is the most consequential speech you will ever give. It is more powerful than your prayers. It is more powerful than your declarations. It is more powerful than any affirmation you speak aloud, because the inner conversation is the one the law takes most seriously. It is the one you believe most deeply. And what most people say to themselves about money, about their own financial future, about their capacity to receive abundance, is devastating. They say, "I am just not good with money." They say, "Every time I get ahead, something always comes along and takes it back." They say, "Money has always been a struggle in my family." They say, "I don't know how to be wealthy. I wouldn't even know what to do with it." They say these things not once, not occasionally, but daily, hourly, in the quiet chambers of their own thinking. And each time they say it, they are not describing their reality. They are creating it. They are placing another stone in the wall between themselves and their inheritance. They are sending another instruction to the law, and the law, faithful and exact, obeys every time. I want you to stop right now, in the middle of this message, and listen to your own inner conversation about money. Just listen. Do not judge it yet. Just notice what the voice says. Notice the tone of it. Is it hopeful or fearful? Is it open or resigned? Is it aligned with the truth that your abundance is already yours? Or is it rehearsing a story of struggle and lack that you have been telling for so long it no longer feels like a story? It feels like the truth. And this is the great deception, beloved. A lie told often enough begins to feel like fact. A belief held long enough begins to feel like reality. But feeling like reality and being reality are two entirely different things. The inner conversation you have been having about money is not a report on what is true. It is a report on what you have been taught to believe. And you have the power, right now, in this moment, to begin changing that conversation. Not by forcing false positivity, not by pasting a smile over a wound and pretending the pain is not there, but by gently, persistently, lovingly replacing every thought of lack with the truth of divine supply. Every time the inner voice says, "I can't afford it," you respond with, "My supply is from an infinite source, and what I need comes to me in perfect ways." Every time the voice says, "Money always leaves me," you respond with, "Money is drawn to me, and it dwells comfortably in my life." You do this not once. You do this every single time, with patience, with consistency, with the understanding that you are not just changing words, you are rewiring a receiver, and that takes repetition and faithfulness and time. But beloved, the results of that rewiring are permanent. When the inner conversation changes, the outer reality must follow, because the outer reality is always, without exception, a reflection of the inner one. Not a punishment, not a reward, simply a reflection. Change what is reflected, and the mirror must show you something different. Now I want to speak to you about the relationship between receiving and rest. Because in this culture, in this age of hustle and grind and relentless productivity, rest has been made into a virtue only for the exhausted and the weak. But beloved, rest is a receiving posture. When you are always straining, always pushing, always forcing, you are in a state that is physiologically and spiritually closed to reception. Think of the hand that is clenched in effort. It cannot receive. Think of the mind that is racing with strategy and worry. It cannot hear the still small voice that is trying to direct it toward the open door. Abundance very often requires you to stop long enough for it to catch up with you. This does not mean passivity. It does not mean sitting in your room waiting for checks to fall from the ceiling. It means building into your life the rhythms of stillness and surrender that allow you to hear, to perceive, to notice the opportunities and the channels and the divine arrangements that your busyness would cause you to miss. The most important decisions of your financial life will often not come to you in moments of intense effort. They will come in the quiet moments, in the early morning stillness, in the pause between tasks, in the space you create when you deliberately stop pushing and simply open. God's direction is not loud. It does not compete with noise. It speaks in the frequency of peace, in the gentle nudge of intuition, in the persistent idea that keeps returning no matter how many times you dismiss it as impractical. And if your life is so full of noise and striving that you cannot hear in that frequency, you will miss the very guidance that would lead you directly to the manifestation of everything you have been decreeing. So, I tell you today, rest is not the opposite of receiving. Rest is one of its most powerful forms. Build the stillness into your day. Create the space. Honor the quiet. And in that quiet, listen for the instruction that will tell you not just what to believe, but what to do, and where to go, and who to speak to, and which door is open right now, waiting for you to walk through it. Let us speak now about the role of the imagination in receiving. Because, beloved, your imagination is not a toy. It is not the place you go when you want to escape from reality. Your imagination is the workshop of the divine. It is the place where the invisible becomes visible before it becomes physical. Everything that exists in the material world, every building, every invention, every work of beauty and function and genius, existed first in someone's imagination. The imagination is not separate from the creative process. It is the first stage of it. When you imagine abundance clearly, when you see with the eyes of your mind the life you are calling into being, when you picture not vaguely but specifically the evidence of your financial overflow, you are not daydreaming, you are building, you are laying the foundation in the invisible realm for something that the law will then construct in the visible one. The image held in the mind with belief and feeling is a blueprint, and the law is the builder that constructs according to the blueprint you provide. This is why the quality of your imagination matters enormously. A blurred blueprint produces a blurred building. An unclear, wavering, sometimes I believe it, sometimes I don't image, produces an unclear, wavering, sometimes it appears, sometimes it doesn't result. But a sharp, vivid, held with certainty image, one that you return to daily, one that you know as well as you know the face of someone you love, one that feels as familiar as memory even though it has not yet occurred. That image produces a result with the same clarity and precision as the image that was held. So I urge you today, beloved, to invest in the quality of your imagination. Take time to build the picture of your abundant life in specific detail. See the numbers, see the accounts, see the opportunities, see the ease with which your needs are met and your dreams are funded. Make the picture so detailed, so textured, so real in your inner experience that when you open your eyes and look at your current circumstances, you are not confused about which is more real. The inner picture is more real, beloved, because it is the source of which the outer picture is merely the shadow, and as the source goes, so goes the shadow. Now, beloved, let us speak about something that many teachers of abundance skip over because it is uncomfortable and because it requires a level of honesty that people would rather avoid. And that is the subject of what you are doing with what you already have. Because one of the most effective ways to block the flow of greater abundance is to mismanage, disrespect, or ignore the portion you currently hold. The law of overflow operates on the principle of faithfulness. Those who are faithful with little are made rulers over much. This is not merely a moral teaching, it is a spiritual law. How you handle your current supply is a signal to the universe about how you will handle greater supply. If money currently arrives in your life and you treat it carelessly, if you spend it without intention, if you never know where it goes, if you avoid looking at your finances because the sight of them causes you anxiety, you are sending a powerful signal to the law that says this one does not value what they receive. And the law, which is always listening and always responding, will not send more of what is not being valued. I am not talking about perfection in financial management. I am not talking about becoming an accountant overnight or following a rigid budget to the penny. I am talking about the spirit with which you approach your current resources. Do you bless the money that comes to you? Do you handle it with awareness and intention? Do you know, at any given moment, roughly what you have and what it is doing? This kind of stewardship, this basic consciousness about your current supply, is one of the most powerful signals you can send to the law that you are ready for more. And here is the beauty of it, beloved. You do not have to wait until you have more to practice this stewardship. You practice it now, with what you have now, however small it may seem. You bless the $20 as you would bless the 20,000. You handle the 100 with the same awareness you would bring to the million. Because the habit of honoring your supply does not grow with the supply. It must precede it. It must be the foundation on which the greater supply is built. And when the law sees that foundation in place, when it sees a soul who values and stewards and blesses what they have been given, it has every reason to increase the gift. Let me speak now to the matter of the words you speak over your financial life in the company of others. Because many people have cleaned up their inner conversation and their private declarations only to undo everything in casual social conversation. They gather with friends and family, and the subject turns to money, and without thinking, without awareness, they slip back into the old language. They complain about prices, they commiserate about struggle. They bond over shared narratives of lack and financial difficulty, and there is a warmth to that bonding. There is a temporary comfort in the feeling of not being alone in the struggle. But beloved, every word spoken in those conversations is an instruction to the law. And when you speak of your lack in company, you are not just venting, you are compounding. You are adding another layer to the story of insufficiency. You are practicing the frequency of scarcity in a social setting and making it stronger through repetition and agreement. The law does not distinguish between private declarations and public ones. It hears them all, and it responds to the pattern of the most consistently held. This does not mean you become dishonest about your current circumstances when speaking with others. It does not mean you pretend everything is fine when it is not. It means you become conscious about the language you use, even in those conversations. Instead of saying, "Money is so tight right now," you can truthfully say, "I am working through a transition, and I expect things to open up." Instead of saying, "I can never seem to get ahead," you can say, "I am building new habits and new beliefs around money, and I am beginning to see things shift." You are not lying. You are simply choosing to speak from the direction you are moving toward rather than the position you are moving away from. And that choice, made consistently, changes everything. Now, beloved, I want to address something that comes up in the hearts of many people when they hear this kind of teaching, and that is the question of those who have prayed and believed and declared and imagined, and still the abundance has not come in, the fullness they expected. And they sit with this question quietly, sometimes bitterly, wondering if the law is selective, wondering if it works for others but not for them, wondering if there is something fundamentally different about their situation that makes them an exception to the promises. And I want to speak to this with great tenderness because this is a real experience and it deserves a real answer. First, let me say this. The law is not selective. It has never been selective. It does not have favorites, and it does not punish the sincere seeker. But beloved, believing and receiving are not the same action. You can believe that something is true and still have a dozen invisible barriers between you and its manifestation. You can declare the right words and still hold the wrong feelings. You can imagine the right picture and still carry the wrong identity. This is why in this teaching we have gone so deep into the inner life, because superficial changes in thought and word will produce superficial and temporary results. What produces permanent transformation is the change that goes all the way down, into the beliefs about your worthiness, into the feelings about your identity, into the deepest convictions about what is possible for a person like you. When those deepest levels change, the surface changes effortlessly and permanently. And if the surface has not changed, it is always because the depths have not yet been touched. So if you have been faithful in your seeking and the fullness has not yet appeared, I do not tell you to give up. I tell you to go deeper. Ask yourself honestly, what do I believe at the very bottom of my heart about my right to receive this? What do I feel in my body when I imagine actually having this abundance? Is there peace there, or is there a subtle tension, a waiting for the other shoe to drop, a feeling that it is too good to be true? Because the feeling at the bottom is the instruction the law receives. And if the feeling at the bottom is one of bracing for disappointment, that is the blueprint the law is building from. Go to the bottom, beloved. Sit with what is there. Do not be afraid of what you find. Everything you discover in those depths is something that can be healed, can be released, can be replaced with the truth of who you are and what you are here to receive. The excavation of those deep beliefs is not a sign that you are broken. It is the work of someone who is serious about transformation, and it is the most important financial work you will ever do. Let us speak now about gratitude, because no teaching on receiving is complete without it. Gratitude is not a nicety. It is not the polite spiritual habit of remembering to say thank you. Gratitude is one of the most powerful forces in the economy of divine abundance. It is the frequency that communicates to the law not just that you want more, but that you honor what you have and that you trust the source of your supply completely. Gratitude says, I see your provision, I value it, I trust it, and I trust that more is coming. And the law, hearing that signal, responds with exactly what gratitude declares. More to be grateful for. This is why the practice of gratitude must be daily and specific, not a general, I am grateful for my life, though that is beautiful and right, but also specific. I am grateful for the $20 that came unexpectedly yesterday. I am grateful for the bill that was less than I expected. I am grateful for the idea that arrived this morning that could open a new door. I am grateful for the connection I made last week that I do not yet fully understand. Specific gratitude for specific provision sharpens the receiver. It attunes your awareness to the evidence of divine supply that is already moving in your life, even if it has not yet arrived in its fullness. And here is the truth about gratitude that transforms the waiting period. When you are genuinely grateful in the midst of the not yet, when you can bless the current portion while holding the vision of the greater abundance, you collapse the distance between where you are and where you are going. Because gratitude is not located in the past or the future, it is located in the present, and the law delivers in the present. When you are fully present in gratitude, fully alive in the consciousness of abundance even before the full manifestation, you are standing in the exact location where your inheritance can find you. Beloved, let us speak about one more great truth before we gather all of these threads together. And that is the truth about divine timing. Because one of the things that causes people to abandon their faith, to lower their expectations, to close their receivers just before the signal breaks through, is the experience of waiting longer than they expected. And the enemy of your abundance knows this. It knows that if it can hold the manifestation just long enough, it can cause you to give up your position at the exact moment the breakthrough was about to arrive. Divine timing is not random, it is not capricious, it is not God saying, not yet, because I am not ready. God is always ready. The supply is always available. The divine timing is about you, about your readiness, about the alignment of all the factors in your life and circumstances that must be in place for the abundance to arrive and remain and multiply. Sometimes the delay is the law building the foundation that the blessing needs in order to stand. Sometimes it is arranging the people and the circumstances and the conditions that will allow your abundance to arrive at the fullness of its potential rather than in a diminished form. And sometimes, beloved, the timing is simply the finishing of your own inner work, the last layer of unworthiness being released, the final false belief being surrendered, the deepest doubt giving way to the solid ground of an unshakable knowing. When that last piece falls into place, the manifestation does not trickle, it overflows. Because it has been building in the invisible, gathering momentum, waiting for the inner conditions to be fully ready to receive it. So do not mistake the waiting for withholding. Do not read the silence as rejection. Do not let the gap between your decree and its visible manifestation become the place where your faith dies. Let it instead become the place where your faith deepens, where your knowing becomes unshakable, where your receiver becomes so finely tuned, so clear, so open, so fully aligned with the frequency of abundance that when the breakthrough comes, it does not surprise you at all. It simply confirms what you already knew in the deepest place of your being. And now, beloved, let us gather every thread of this teaching into the cord of living truth that you will carry forward from this moment. The money is already yours. This is not a comforting thought designed to make you feel better. It is the literal, spiritual, inviolable truth of your divine inheritance. The only work before you is not to earn what is already yours, but to remove every block to receiving it, to dismantle the beliefs of unworthiness that tell you you must deserve it first, to open every channel and stop dictating to the law how and through which door the answer must arrive, to transform the inner conversation from a rehearsal of lack into a living declaration of abundant truth. To build the habits of stewardship that tell the law you are ready and worthy of greater supply. To practice gratitude with the specificity and the constancy of a person who knows that every provision is a love letter from the divine. To hold the imagination steady on the picture of your abundant life with the certainty of one who knows it is not a dream, but a blueprint. And to trust the timing, even when it stretches your faith, knowing that the law never forgets, never misplaces, never abandons a sincere and faithful receiver. Your receiver is being recalibrated right now, beloved. Something is shifting in the depths of your inner life as these words find their home in your understanding. The static is clearing. The signal is strengthening. The channel is opening. And the abundance that has always been yours, that has been broadcasting your name from the invisible storehouse of God, is about to break through into the visible world of your experience in ways that will leave you breathless with gratitude. You are not waiting for something that might come. You are preparing to receive something that is already on its way. You are not hoping for a miracle. You are aligning with a law that has never failed, that cannot fail, that is as constant and faithful and exact as the sunrise. So rise from this moment differently than you arrived. Rise as one who knows. Rise as one whose receiver is open and tuned and ready. Rise as one who has looked honestly at the blocks and has chosen, with full and deliberate intention, to remove them one by one until there is nothing left between them and the fullness of their divine inheritance. Speak your abundance, picture your abundance, feel your abundance, steward your abundance, bless your abundance before it arrives, and give thanks for it after. Live as one who has already received because in the truest, deepest, most spiritually accurate sense, you already have. The money is already yours, beloved, and now, at last, you know how to receive it. Go and let it in. If this message has touched something deep in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Let the circle of faith grow wider. Let the law prove itself again and again in the lives of those who dare to open their receivers and call in what is already, and has always been, rightfully theirs.